"I'm not buying anything, Mrs. Bird," said Paddington, as he reached out a paw for a second helping of treacle tart. "I'm only going to watch." All the same, when he left the house after lunch, Mrs. Bird noticed he was carrying his old leather suitcase in which he kept all his money. "It's all right, Mrs. Bird," said Paddington as he waved goodbye with his paw. "It's only in case of emergency." "Just so long as he doesn't come home with a suite of furniture," said Mrs. Bird as she closed the door. "If he does, it'll have to go in the garden." Paddington felt very excited as he entered the auction rooms. Mr. Gruber had put on his best suit for the occasion, and a number of people turned to stare at them as they came through the door. Having bought 2 catalogues, Mr. Gruber pushed his way to the front so that Paddington would have a good view. On the way, he introduced him to several of the other dealers as Mr. Brown, a young bear friend of mine from darkest Peru who's interested in antiques. They all shook Paddington's paw and whispered that they were very pleased to meet him. It was all much different to what Paddington had expected. It was really like a very big antique shop, with boxes and tables loaded with china and silver round the walls. There was a large crowd of people standing in the middle of the room, facing a man on a platform, who appeared to be waving a hammer in the air. "That's the auctioneer," whispered Mr. Gruber. "He's the man you want to watch. He's most important." Paddington raised his hat politely to the auctioneer and then settled down on his suitcase and carefully looked around. After a moment, he decided he liked auction sales. Everyone seemed so friendly. In fact, he had hardly made himself comfortable before a man on the other side of the room waved his hand in their direction. Paddington stood up, raised his hat, and waved a friendly paw back. No sooner had he sat down than the man waved again. Being a polite bear, Paddington stood up and once more waved his paw. To his surprise, the man stopped waving almost immediately and glared at him instead. Paddington gave him a hard stare, and then settled down to watch the man on the platform, who appeared to be doing something with his hammer again. "Going!" the man shouted, hitting the table. "Going! Gone! Sold to the young bear gentleman in the hat for £3.50. "Oh, dear," said Mr. Gruber, looking most upset. "I'm afraid you've just bought a set of carpentry tools, Mr. Brown." "What?" repeated Paddington, nearly falling off his suitcase with surprise. "I've bought a set of carpentry tools?" "Come along," said the auctioneer sternly. "You're holding up the proceedings. Pay at the desk, please." "A set of carpentry tools?" exclaimed Paddington, jumping up and waving his paws in the air. "But I didn't even say anything." Mr. Gruber looked most embarrassed. "I'm afraid it's all my fault, Mr. Brown," he said. "I should have explained auction sales to you before we came in. I think perhaps I'd better pay for them, as it wasn't really your fault. You see," he continued when he returned from the desk, "you have to be very careful at a sale, Mr. Brown." Mr. Gruber went on to explain how the auctioneer offered each item for sale, and how, after one person had made a bid for something, it was up to anyone else who wanted it to make a better offer. "If you nod your head, Mr. Brown," he said, "or even scratch your nose, they think it's a sign you want to buy something. I expect the auctioneer saw you raise your hat just now and thought you were bidding." Paddington wasn't at all sure what Mr. Gruber meant, but having carefully made sure the auctioneer wasn't looking, he quickly nodded and then sat very still while he watched the proceedings. Although he didn't say anything to Mr. Gruber, he was beginning to wish he hadn't come to the auction. The room was hot and crowded, and he wanted to take his hat off. Apart from that, he was sitting on the handle of his suitcase, which was most uncomfortable. He closed his eyes and was just about to try and go to sleep when Mr. Gruber nudged his paw and pointed to the catalogue. "I say, Mr. Brown," he said, "the next item is very interesting. It's an old pistol, the sort highwaymen used. They're quite popular just now. I think I shall try bidding for it." Paddington sat up and watched excitedly as the auctioneer